giggling. What is my deal with not being able to pronounce this? Giggling and kicking my feet. As you can tell from the title, today I'm going to be going through my January and February reads. Basically just going to go through the books I've read. I'm going to tell you about them, why I liked them, what rating I gave them. So just a little sit down chit chat. This clip will be filmed differently to the next clip with my February reads because I am doing it at different times because it's not the end of February yet. Anyway, let's firstly get into my January reads. The first book I read was Kingdom of the Feared by Kerri Maniscalco. This is a weird one because I first read this series in 2021. So it's now 2026. So a long time ago, I read the first and the second one, which is Kingdom of the Wicked and Kingdom of the Cursed. They were okay. I gave the first one a 3, I gave the second one a 4. So I wasn't like that into the series. I thought it was just like, you know, an average fantasy series. It was quite quick paced. And then I just never read the third one. So here is finally the third one. It took me a minute to get back into the world. I did read a summary on the first 2, so that I kind of knew where I was getting back into it, and I did remember some of like the main plot points. You know, it's your basic fantasy. It's got some good tropes in there, but I don't know whether it's a writing that I just don't really get along with, but I just wasn't that into it. I kind of just wanted to get it over with. Like, I just wanted to get the series done. I like Raph, I like Amelia, but again, I wasn't too invested in the romance. The conflict for me was a bit like, it was really built up and built up and built up and built up. And then the ending was just like, blah. It was just like it just ended. Like, it didn't really live up to the build up. Average book. I mean, I would recommend it if maybe you were starting with fantasy, as I think it's quite a fast-paced trilogy to start with. However, if you haven't read it yet and you're like quite into reading already, it wouldn't be my top choice to recommend. So yeah, 3 stars. After that, I wanted a change from fantasy. I wasn't feeling it. For some reason, I wanted a cowboy romance, which is just out of the blue. I don't own any cowboy romances. I went on TikTok and the first thing that came up for recommendations was the Chestnut Springs series. For some reason, I had like written off the series as like, I'm never going to read it, because when I read like the backs of the books, it just didn't really like tickle my pickle, to be honest. I thought they were going to be like insta love. Like, that's the vibe I got from the back. I thought it were going to be like insta love, tons of spice, and that's not really my kind of book. However, gave it a go because the ratings and reviews for these are crazy good, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving this one a 4 star. This is Flawless by Elsie Silver, and it is the first book in the Chestnut Springs series. So this follows Summer and Rhett. Rhett is a notorious bull rider in his like town. He's quite successful, but he is getting older. His family's quite against what he does, so we've got quite a lot of pressure from everyone going around, and he kind of gets in a bit of a sticky situation with one of his sponsors. His agent makes his daughter babysit him in a way. His daughter is also in the like agent business world. So Summer then has to live on the ranch with Rhett and his family and basically babysit him to make sure he doesn't do any more stupid mistakes and lose any more sponsors. So, you know, that's quite a good little meet cute that we've got going on. First, they're very kind of frosty to each other. He's obviously very opposed to the idea of having a babysitter. You know, forced proximity, the romance starts and it starts to build up, and yeah, it's a really nice cute little cowboy romance. It definitely kind of fulfilled what I was wanting in the book. I liked the couple, don't get me wrong. Like, I really liked Summer's character, I really liked Rhett's character, and their development was really good. I just wasn't like mega for the couple, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like for a 5 star you've got to be like loving the couple, and it just wasn't love, but I liked them. I really liked Elsie Silver's writing, as this is her first book that I've read by her. Yeah, really good, would recommend. So following Flawless, I then went and bought the rest of the book series. So this is no, it's not. This is Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in the Chestnut Spring series. So it is an interconnected series, which basically means that they're standalones essentially, and it's separate romance stories, but there is links between characters from like previous and future books. So this is following Willa, who is Summer's, from the previous book, best friend. And it also follows Cade, who is Rhett's brother, and he's kind of the oldest in the family, and he is a single dad, and he works on the ranch and basically kind of keeps it all up. Cade needs a nanny basically to babysit his son, who is 5, and he is called Luke. He's very picky with who he's hiring. He wants the best person possible for his son, but the person he's looking for quite literally is not possible because he's that picky. So Summer basically goes like, please stop, I can't take it anymore, here's my best friend, like she will look after your son. Cade is 13 years older than Willa, so there is an age gap, and obviously it's the single dad nanny trope, which I think is like one of the best tropes out there because it just creates such good angsty sweet romance, and this definitely, you know, delivered that. The tension between Willa and Grant in this is amazing, and like the banter and the kind of the flirty chats that they have is really good. But most of all, the cuteness between Willa and Luke, the son, is just so sweet. She's a great kind of parent figure to him, and that is what really, you know, gets Cade, because all he wants is someone to love his son and love him as well. And yeah, it's just a very cute cowboy small town romance. I gave this a 4.5, I think, or it might have been a 4, I'm not sure. But yeah, really good, would recommend. I just kept wanting to read romance after romance after romance, but we went on to a different romance series, and that is the Windy City series. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's currently absolutely massive on TikTok and YouTube, and everyone's talking about it, and rightfully so. It is a very good series. Out of the 2 I've read so far, we've got a 4 and a 5 star. This is another interconnected series, and this is a sports romance series. This one is the second book in the series. Mile High is the first one. I gave that one a 4. And this one, which is The Right Move by Liz Tumfordy, is the second one. So this follows Ryan Shea, which is the brother of Stevie from the first book. And he is the point guard on the Chicago's NBA team, which is basketball. He is kind of like the golden boy of basketball. He's loved by all fans. He is kind of the best point guard in the league. You know, he's a very, very good, well-known basketball player. He's kind of got some difficult past that kind of has made him reluctant to trust people. So he's very closed off. And then we have Indy Ivers, and she is Stevie's best friend. She's a flight attendant for a hockey team who you meet in the first book. Indy has again had a very bad past. Her fiance, who, you know, she was like childhood sweethearts with, ended up cheating on her. She walked in on this guy cheating on her. So obviously she broke up with him, as she should, and she left, but she didn't have anywhere to go because the apartment she gave to her ex. She ends up moving in with Ryan, and they set some basic rules. He's quite frosty to her at first, you know, he's really like hesitant for this to happen. He's not liking that situation. Indy's very much a ray of sunshine, like she just wants the best. She's just so happy. She's dealing with a lot of things. She just wants a safe place to just relax and call her home until she sorts out some things in her life. I loved this book so much. The romance was just like chef's kiss. It was just, I remember just reading, like, for the first time I read it, and I literally blinked and I was 70 pages in, and I was like, how have I read that much already? And I didn't even like it's so good when you forget that you even read in because of how good it is. And yeah, it was immediately that feeling for me. The obviously trope of them living together, you know, forced proximity and them being roommates, it just creates the most like amazing romance scenes there. And yeah. Another thing is Ryan Shea is one of the best book boyfriends I think I've read about. He is so attentive to Indy. Even when he says he doesn't like her and he doesn't want her living with him, you know, he's putting her iced coffee in the fridge, he's buying her a new bed, he made her a bookshelf. This guy, you know, he acts like he doesn't love her, but really, you know, yeah. They also enter like a fake dating situation because he needs to make the public think he's more open and, you know, not this really reserved guy. And Indy has a wedding invitation where her ex is going to be. So she wants to have, you know, a good man on her arms to show him, you know, look what you lost, hon. So of course, you know, come on, fake dating creates the best moments. So yeah, it really is just an amazing romance. I cannot recommend this enough. If you have not read the Windy City series yet, please do, because it's amazing. Okay, our last read of January is a different genre. This is a poetry book. So I like to read like a poetry book or some sort of genre that I don't usually read alongside like my main fiction book. So this is Time Will Tell by Courtney Peppernell. If you haven't heard of Courtney Peppernell or her poetry, you'll most likely recognise the name from her poetry collection called Pillow Forts. It was again a very kind of viral poetry collection a while ago. Basically going through her whole collection, to be honest. I really like Courtney Peppernell's writing and I like her poetry style. However, the topics and, you know, themes in this one, I just wasn't super connected to it because I didn't really relate to it. And I feel like poetry is very subjective. You know, it all depends on how you're feeling at the moment, your situations in life, you know, if you've had things happen in the past or, you know, stuff like that. I think it really depends whether you're going to like it or not. This one's a bit more from going like self-hate to self-love. It's kind of like a journey of a restart, a refresh in life. You know, you've had bad things, you've felt bad things, and it's going from that to then, you know, coming out of that. So I didn't relate to it as much, but I think for anyone going through like something tough like that, it would definitely be great as like motivation, as getting you through things like that, and it would most probably really speak to you. There was a few poems, of course, that I did have that I really enjoyed. Like I said, I think it's very subjective. I think it really depends on the topics of the book, if it's gonna connect with you or not. But I gave it a 3. As you can see, I don't know if you can, I did make some annotations. Okay, so these are all the books I read in January. I will see you in the next clip when I have all my February reads. Hopefully, I'm aiming for maybe 6 books. It is now the end of February. I've done all my reading. I am in a new area because I'm at my mum's house. The last clip was at my dad's house. I also don't have all the books with me, so I will just be putting up a picture of the cover on the screen for you. I read 7 books this month, so I'm very happy with that. The first book I read was Caught Up by Liz Tomfordy. So this is the 3rd book in the Windy City series. Previously I'd read The Right Move and I gave that a 5, and I gave Mile High a 4. I gave this book a 3.5, which I know is going to be a very unpopular opinion because for many people I think it's their favourite. I was so excited going into it. So the book is basically about Kai, who is a baseball player. He's like an ex kind of fling that he had, ended up having a baby, didn't tell him about the baby and just kind of left it on his doorstep and was like, here you go, here's the baby, it's yours, see you later. And that was it. So he has to juggle his job but also wants to prioritise his kid. So his coach ends up making his daughter focus more on baseball. The thing is, Miller is also an incredible chef who is really well known in the industry. So this job is only temporary until she goes back to her actual job being a chef. Kai is kind of stuck in Chicago, very responsible. He's settling down, obviously, with his kid. And then we have Miller, who is kind of wild, just wants to travel everywhere and doesn't really want to be tied down. Obviously, single dad nanny trope, I was so excited for it. I thought I was going to absolutely eat this book up. I literally started this series for this book. And yeah, I was really disappointed. And I don't know whether it is because I went into it with such high expectations. It just didn't do it for me. I feel like with The Right Move and Mile High, there was more of a build-up of romance that I preferred, and it made me more connected to the characters in the couple, especially in The Right Move. There was so much like scenes where Ryan was doing things for Indy, or there was little like kind of protectiveness, and it kind of made you feel the connection between the characters more. And I feel like that kind of lacked for Miller and Kai. I don't know really what happened. It just wasn't for me. I just didn't love it. I will say the ending of the book was really nice and quite emotional, and I think that definitely redeemed the book a lot more for me. Like, I definitely enjoyed the latter half of the book. I really liked the outcome and how they kind of concluded it. It was sweet and it was nice. Okay, after that, Okay, so the next 3 books that I read in a reading vlog. I basically used a spin the wheel to pick my next 3 reads, and then I read them on camera for you guys. So if you haven't seen that vlog already, do go watch that. The first one is Heartless by Marissa Meyer, and I gave this a 3.75. This is a YA fantasy romance novel. It's basically a Queen of Hearts kind of prequel. The author has written a story on how the Queen of Hearts came to be, which I think was a really cool concept. I was really intrigued by it, and because you know that she's going to become the Queen of Hearts, you kind of get an inkling of what is going to happen throughout the book. Regardless of what goes on, you know an outcome of it. The romance in it was nice, it was sweet, it was flirty. I really liked Catherine. I think she was a really cool character. She was strong. She did annoy me in certain situations, but then I did kind of understand her as well. Then we had Jest, which is the Joker, the court Joker, and these kind of bud a romance together. Jest was very mysterious, very charming, sweet, flirty. So yeah, it was a nice little romance. I do think I prefer a bit more of an intense romance, but again, it was YA, so it was most probably just due to the genre. However, I have read a lot of other YA novels that I think the romance was a lot better for me. The plot twist in it, one was very predictable, like I literally guessed it from the start, and the ending was a bit disappointing, mainly because it kind of built up this ending throughout the book. I think anyone that has read it will know obviously what I'm talking about. If you haven't read it, I think it's quite easy to assume what happens at the end, even, you know, just based off the title and based off the synopsis of the book. And I don't know, I feel like it was built up and built up and built up, and I was expecting to be really like emotional about it and a bit more of a reaction, and I just didn't. I feel like it was skipped over quite quickly. The actual ending though, I thought was pretty cool. It was a bit chilling, a bit eerie. That is Heartless. Then the next book I read was The Midnight Library, and this is a literary fiction. It's very different to what I would usually read, a bit outside my comfort zone, but I liked it. I gave it a 3.5. The concept again for this one was pretty unique. I haven't really heard of anything like it before. It's basically about a woman called Nora who dies. That's not a spoiler because it happens very, very quickly into the book. She ends up waking up to this library called the Midnight Library. There is loads and loads of books on the shelves, and she can pick a book, and each book represents a different life that she could have lived. So this woman basically kind of comes to her and says, if you had a different choice in life, what life would you want? You can go through all these books, you can experiment. If you like it, you can stay in that reality. If you don't like it, you'll come back to the library until you find a world where you would want to live in. It makes her realise that things that she spent so much time thinking about and worrying about and having all these regrets over was actually pointless, and she could have used that energy into improving her life in her own reality, if that makes sense. The meaning was quite, you know, deep and emotional, and it definitely quite inspiring because it makes you realise, why am I worrying about this? Let's just focus on now and making this life better. I'm pretty sure in the reading vlog I gave it a 4, but now that some time has passed, I do think it's a more of a 3.5, just because I've not really thought about it since, and it's not something that I would easily kind of remember and recommend or pick out, so I'm going to change it to a 3.5. The final book I read in the reading vlog was You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry, or you might also know it as People We Meet on Vacation. That is the American title, I believe. This is a romance, and it is between... who the frick is it? Between Alex and Poppy. Yeah. Between Alex and Poppy. Poppy and Alex are met in college, and they're like the opposites of each other. They eventually grow this friendship, and it becomes really, really strong, and they end up wanting to travel. So they both agree that no matter where they are, what they're doing, they will always have a trip once a year where they travel to a new place and they have this really fun holiday together. And then 2 years ago, they go to Croatia, and something happens that ruins their friendship. Poppy decides she wants one last holiday with him to try and fix this friendship. They go on this trip together, and of course there's some tension, but a romance ends up coming out of it. I went into this a little bit like because it is a friends to lovers romance, and I'm not a massive fan of that. First 130 pages was more of like a build up. It was given as a foundation of the friendship. After that, it was just like addicting. Like, I couldn't put it down. I absolutely loved it. The way the book is set is there is the present moment where they're on the current trip, the current holiday, and then it flashes back to all of their previous holidays. So it will be 9 summers ago, 10 summers ago, 3 summers ago. As the book went on, the flashbacks focused more on the moments where their friendship kind of crossed the line into a relationship. So it really made the romance like stronger. You were rooting for them to get together. Like, they were longing for each other. You could both tell both of them wanted each other, but they were too scared to cross that line in case it ruined the friendship. I really, really liked it. I really like the romance. I think Emily Henry's writing is very clear, but it's also, you know, clever and witty. I think her characters are also really good, how she builds them up. So I give that a 4.2, and I'm definitely excited to read more of her books in the future. The next book is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This is way, way, way out of my comfort zone. It is a genre I've never read before, which is a memoir. It's very similar to an autobiography, but instead of focusing on a person's entire life, it focuses on like one period of time or like one specific theme. In this book, it was love. I've never read a memoir or an autobiography, so it was definitely different. I gave this a 2.5, so judging by the rating, I think you can tell I wasn't a huge fan of it. I will say before I go on to give this review, if you do read memoirs or you are into this kind of genre, don't let my review put you off of it, because obviously I don't ever read this type of books. My dislike is most probably down to the dislike of the genre. I was very bored during lots of this. I ended up only reading like 30 pages a day just so I could like get it finished, because I just did not, I was really bored. There was some moments where I did get a bit more into it and I related to it a little bit more, or it got me a little bit emotional or something. Like, there was one moment in it where one of her close kind of friends died. One of the quotes, I'll put it on the screen, one of the quotes that she put, I was like, that's good, I liked that. And then there was just the odd little bits that I would relate to. However, I just think that the writer, obviously this is the story of the actual author, I think just her personality and kind of her childhood and what she did growing up was very different to mine or my personality, so I didn't really relate to what she did or how she felt. So I think obviously again that's a big part of why I didn't like it. I just didn't relate to what she was saying. The writing wasn't bad. I liked the writing. I just didn't like the contents of it. When it says love, it's not just about relationship. It covered love with friendships. It covered love with, you know, self-love, family, and then obviously relationships as well was a part of it. At times I did find the author a little bit annoying. Like, some of her opinions I just didn't agree with, and I didn't really relate to the author in situations, which I don't think helped me liking the book anymore. The ending of the book I liked. I think it was a bit better in the latter half of the book, and I really liked the acknowledgements at the end because I thought it was really cute and sweet. It was basically saying that her like greatest love of all is her best friend, and I thought that was really cute. Yeah, 2.5, but again, you don't know if you'll like it until you try it. Just like me, I'll most probably not pick up this genre of book anytime soon, but I'm glad I tried it. I'm glad I read it. Just wasn't for me, but it could be for you, so give it a go, have your own opinion on it. So after that, I was really craving a romantasy. I wanted a bingeable fantasy book, morally great MMC, some really good protective, angsty, swoony moments. You know, I wanted to be giggling and kicking my feet. I decided to read Phantasma, and I gave this a 5-star. I absolutely loved it. I did consider giving it a 6-star. I loved it that much. I feel like compared to the other books in my 6-star category, I haven't thought about it as much as them. So I feel like I can't put it on the same tier. I'm very picky about 6 stars. Straight off the bat, this reminded me of Kingdom of the Wicked and Caraval, but better and a bit spicier. There's like ghouls and demons and devils and ghosts, and it's kind of like all witchy and spooky kind of vibe. The main character in it, Ophelia Grimm, she has the power of necromancy, so she can kind of communicate to the dead and things like that. And her sister goes missing, and she believes her sister has joined this competition called Phantasma. The game is known for being extremely deadly. The trials in it represent the 9 circles of hell, and it is run by devils and demons. Most people die in it because there can only be one person standing by the end. So if you don't forfeit or choose to leave or make a bargain with a devil, you will die if you don't win it. I really, really liked Ophelia. She was very powerful, but also emotional, and, you know, she stood on business when she needed to. Then we have Blackwell and who is our MMC, and he is a phantom living within Phantasma, and he makes a bargain with Ophelia. If he helps her win the competition and help her find her sister, she will in return help him find this key that he needs to get out of Phantasma, because he's kind of held to the game. The romance in this was so good. Blackwell was super flirty, very charming, very witty and funny, and he was extremely protective over Ophelia, which was just like so good. When I said, you know, I wanted a bingeable romance, I wanted morally grey MMC, giggling, what is my deal with not being able to pronounce this? Giggling and kicking my feet definitely delivered. It was just everything I wanted in the book at that moment. I would literally recommend this 10 times over. Read it. Also in this book, Ophelia has OCD, and the author does talk about it at the end of the book. The way she is represented and the way OCD is represented is very, very good and clear, and I think it will help a lot of people that have OCD, you know, being represented and done so in such a good way. So it just spreads awareness of it and, you know, educates people who might not know about it. Amazing. Absolutely loved it. Finally, the last book I read was Fearful by Lauren Roberts. This is the final novella in the Powerless series. So there is Powerless, Powerful, Reckless, Fearless, Fearful. I wasn't a big fan of Powerless, to be honest. It kind of blew up on TikTok very, very quickly. I didn't really love it. I wasn't very connected to the romance. The thing is, everything within it is something that I would usually love. I just wasn't that into it. Like, the romance, I was just like, I don't know. There was just something about it. I just couldn't really get, like, hooked into it. But I wanted to finish the series. I gave it a 1.5 star. It was pointless, to be quite frank. I don't know why the book was written, to be honest. I thought there was no need for it. It wasn't relevant at all. It didn't add anything. In fact, I think it just actually left you with more questions. It's basically about Mara, who is deaf. She is literally deaf. But Mara basically stalks basically just stalked several people within the timeline of Fearless. She stalks Blair and Lenny because she thinks they're entertaining. Then she talks with Kit, and that's about it. I think it was advertised as a romance. The only part of it that was romantic was the kind of romance budding between Blair and Lenny. There was nothing crazy going on. That was it. The ending was super confusing. I feel like she just like suddenly just switched up like that. This thing that she kept going on about her past that was never explained suddenly came into it, and she was fuming. And then the ending just, I was just so confused. I was just like, what, why? The actual build-up that was going on then just didn't really come to anything by the end of it, and it was just like, blah. Just finished, and I was just left going. But yeah, so 1.5. That is all of my reads of February and January. 2 5 stars, I think, in there. Thank you for watching this video, and hopefully you guys have got some recommendations from this bunch of books. I will see you in the next video.